Kings and Queens, Your Majesties, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for always returning. Trust you and yours are well, and you're loving yourself and others like always. Many thanks to all of you for the support you give to the channel. Thank you so much to our channel members, to our anonymous supporters, to all of you, my esteemed subscribers. You are loved, celebrated, and appreciated. So, I am just African. Can't I just be African? Can't you just be African? Like, I'm African. You know, we are always interested in, oh, where do you come from? A lot of you have asked me that question. Oh, Abigail, where are you coming from? Most of you to today don't know where I'm coming from. Maybe because of some of the videos I make. And most of you can just tell. Or maybe one day I said it without knowing. And a lot of you still argue that. I was happy while I was traveling the borders. And some group of persons were arguing about my nationality, and you see I was just smiling all through. I was happy. They were like, oh, you are this, or you're Ghanaian, or you're Togolese, or you're this, you're that. And I'm like, okay, that's good. So what do you think? If I tell you where I'm coming from, you won't believe. They say, okay, I should say. And when I said it, they refused to believe. They say it's not true. They said there's no way that I will be from where I said I'm from. That's not true. I don't look it. I'm too calm to be from that place. I'm too composed to be from that place. I'm like, what do you mean by that? Anyway, why am I saying this? I'm saying this because prior to 1885 Berlin Conference, is it 1884, 85? I don't know, 1883, yeah. Africa was borderless, okay? It's a continent that was borderless. Even Europe today and America today that have borders, so-called though, so-called borders, so you can still cross over without prohibition. You can cross over without somebody coming to try to stop you, try to harass you, telling you have to pay a certain amount of money, you have to do this before you cross. They still cross. They only tell you there are borders, but amongst themselves they know that there's no borders. And why do you think they keep telling you that there are borders? Because they know that if they want to make the one they create in Africa work so well for them and help them achieve their wicked dreams and goals, they have to tell you that they themselves have borders. Your Majesties. So, these borders were created out of the selfishness of the European bodies when they came to lord it over our people and divided the motherland, because they knew that this continent is the richest continent in the world. And why do you think so? We've talked about Africa being the celestial zone, and that's why a lot of positivity is around the motherland. You can easily connect to divinity, and if you want to destroy yourself, it works faster even here. If you want to ascend, it's faster. If you want to become as low as demons and whatever, it is also faster, because the energies here are very high. Now, when they came in, they saw that, okay, this is the only part that have everything. And so for us to have a share in this everything and also develop ourselves, we have to divide these places amongst ourselves. We've talked about that here, the 1883 Berlin Conference. There's a video about that where we analyze the letter and how these people sat down and said, in the name of God, they are dividing the motherland into, they divided us amongst themselves. And each part have their own region where they get what they can get. And then when they did that, they implanted puppet leaders. Puppet leaders that could aid them, lure their own brothers and sisters, use their own brothers and sisters to work their backs out. And then when these Africans will work their back out, these puppet Africans will pack these things and go and give it to their puppeteers, to the Europeans who were their masters. So the moment they did these things and implanted leaders, and then they tell you, oh, we've abolished slavery. Slavery has ended. You think that, okay, the Europeans were the ones that abolished slavery. Oh, they say anybody that is caught selling anybody, they will do this to that person, do that to that person. You think it's because they got another form of enslaving us. And that's why they open their mouth and tell you that they abolished slavery. So this other form of slavery is the one that is worse than the first one, because the first one you only kill the body, but the spirit is there, and the spirit is always willing. And that was why we had people, we had slaves who revolted. We had slaves who stood up and fought against their slave masters, even in their conditions that they were in. Because it was only their bodies that they harmed. But this type of slavery is the type that will also affect our mental capabilities. It turn our leaders into puppets. When you turn somebody into a puppet, the person doesn't have a mind of his or her own anymore. Whatever you do it for them. And this was how these people introduced the Western education. Now, when you talk about the educational system that all of us as Africans went through, is a form of slavery, because there was nothing about us that was taught the way it should be taught. I hope I am not digressing. I hope I am not talking too much, Your Majesties. What am I saying? A borderless Africa was the condition that the motherland was in before. And if we say we want a united body, we should also struggle to get a united Africa. That border, it shouldn't be a problem. Yes, we can have our jurisdictions. Yes, we can have our demarcations. But it shouldn't be in a way that when I want to cross, you make it so difficult for me to cross. You ask me to pay a certain amount of money. Sometimes you take too much from me. You frustrate me at the border. Okay, oh, what are you going to do there? Are you sure you're not carrying something? Sometimes at these borders, drugs are implanted deliberately on people. Your Majesties, this is what we are talking about. And when I saw this, I'm like, I have to share this with you to hear your thoughts and opinion as well, Your Majesties.
Africans Rising has called on youths on the continent to rise and unite in calling for the removal of borders, stressing that various border restrictions are hindering their development. And Zimbabwean philosopher and Pan-Africanist Joshua Maponga says a borderless Africa is crucial for the development of the continent, hence the need for African governments to sign the Treaty on the Free Movement of the People. Bishop Maponga has also called on African countries to stop entertaining foreigners who cause war among them in order to loot their resources. Africans Rising is a pan-African movement calling for the removal of borders on the continent as well as visa and passport requirements for Africans. Here's a report. Africa Freedom Day is celebrated on May 25th every year to commemorate the founding of the Organization of African Union, or AU, which is now known as the African Union, AU. A movement of young people feels Africa is not free until all borders are removed. This movement is called Africans Rising. They are calling for the removal of borders on the African continent in order for them to realize opportunities that lie in every country. They came from different countries, including Tanzania, Cameroon, Nigeria, Kenya, and Zambia itself, among others. They gathered in Lusaka for a march past on Africa Freedom Day. This march past by Africans Rising was graced by Zimbabwean philosopher and Pan-Africanist Bishop Joshua Maponga.
As long as we are concerned, Africa is one. I am not a Ghanaian. I am not a Zambian. I am not a Zimbabwean. I do not recognize a Ghana. I do not recognize a Zambia. I recognize Africa. Yes. One Africa, one passport. One passport, one citizenship, one currency, one military command, one central bank of issue, one communication system, one people, one destiny. That is the Africa that we want. And we are here not to beg for it. We are declaring it as of rights. And it is ours to do so. Nobody has the right to sit in Berlin and declare Africa divided.
Yes, Your Majesties, that's for a fact that we need these borders to be open so that we can move freely as we should, Your Majesties. The painful thing is that this whole border restriction that we are all talking about is only it has effect on the African people alone. When it comes to Europeans, the immigration at the borders, the customs at the borders, most of the times they don't do what they have to do. But when it is an African, somebody that immediately it becomes someone that look like them, it becomes a thief. Immediately, immediately you are African, you become a thief, you become a robber, you become somebody who wants to smuggle something through the border. But if it's a white person, they don't see that in that person. Oh goodness me. And most of you said I shouldn't talk about religion. You said I shouldn't talk about religion? When they brought you Jesus, what color was the Jesus they brought to you? It's a white one. And they tell you, this is the one that died for all of you, died for your sins. Okay? He suffered for you and died for you. See, that's mental damage. That emotional damage is still effective in us. And that's why sometimes I can understand when some of you make comments. Oh, I love what you do. You can go far. But don't talk about religion. Really don't involve Christianity. Some of you send us emails. You send those messages to me. Don't talk about Christianity. You are doing a good job. Just be talking about Africa. You want me to talk about my motherland. The progress, the downfall, the success, the struggles without talking about religion. When religion is the heart of the destruction of the motherland. Religion is the main thing that destroyed the motherland. You don't want me to talk about religion, but you want me to talk about other things. If religion is not part of our problem, why do you think our puppet leaders, when it comes to elections, they use religion? Why do you think politicians use religion if religion is not a tool? You know, you don't see it that way. And some of you that are Christians, even if it's a problem, it's going to be Islam. Islam is the problem. Islam is the one they're using to. And then some of you that are Muslims say, oh, it's Christianity that is the problem. Christianity is the main problem here. We blame each other. As we sat down blaming each other, looking for faults from here and there, we forget that before all these things, we were Africans. And that's why I tell you, can't I just be African? Why are you always interested in wanting to know where I'm coming from? Oh, is she Ghanaian? Oh, is she South African? Oh, is she Nigerian? Oh, is she Gambian? Oh, is she Zimbabwean? I am African. Is that not enough? Your Majesties, is that not enough? But no, it's not enough. Because the Europeans have come and successfully demarcated physically and demarcated mentally. So the moment you are Ghanaian and I am not Ghanaian, I'm not your brother. We grow with this mentality, we move around with this mentality, and we hurt ourselves at the long run. Why? Because these borders that have been created physically have also been created in our minds. We demarcate, we differentiate. And it is affecting us as the African people. Okay? The earlier we discover that all these things that cause our division, all these things that cause our division are, the moment we don't realize that these things that cause our division are the cause of our problems, we are not going to succeed as the African people. We'll keep talking every day, unity, unity. How would the unity come when we don't look at each other as we should look at ourselves for? Your Majesties, these are questions that we have to ask ourselves. Because if we really want a borderless Africa, then we have to learn to love and be sincere. Because if I love the motherland as my home, I can't do anything that will cause problem to any region. I can't be the source of the problem of any region. I can't be moving around and going into a country with something that I know is going to affect that country. I can't be a source of the problem of my own people. That is the moment I realize that everywhere is for me and I am for everywhere. I won't be thinking of how to steal my brother's goods and services. I won't be thinking of how to inflict pain on my brother. When I say brother, I say sister, I mean everybody in the 54 countries in the continent of Africa. We are brothers and sisters and our brothers in the diaspora. We are brothers and sisters. So enough of all this cutting out. Oh, you are from here. You're from East Africa. You're from West Africa. You're from North Africa. You're from Central Africa. When are we going to throw out all this segregation? We can still do it having our own traditions and cultures going. I am not saying that until we have to use one language. I am not saying until we have to accept one tradition. No. We can still love each other, loving our practices, loving our traditions, loving what makes us who we are. There's not... we can do it. It's just for us to have... to think well of our brothers and sisters. That's all. Because I do this and you don't do it does not mean that I'm bad. Your Majesties, before the Berlin Conference, we were living this way. Having trade between ourselves, communicating in a way that we could and the way that we knew best. Before the Europeans involved themselves and divided the continent. What do you think about a borderless Africa, one passport? I know there is no way that this can come easily. Why? Because it is in our division that Europe and America succeed and progresses. It is in our division that the collective West grow. So the moment we come together, they are destroyed. And so they will put everything together, they will put everything in place and use us. They will use us against ourselves. They will use us to destroy ourselves. But it's high time we wake up to decode all this that they do. Leave your thoughts and opinion there at the section and I'll see you in my next one. Until then, love yourself, love others, stay safe, stay positive. Always, Your Majesties. Bye for now.